Welcome back to Screen Sports' exclusive live coverage of the Copa America and part two of a double-header in the port of Valparaiso. Barely time for the crowd to digest Colombia's narrow win over Ecuador. Then two of the other three sides in Group B begin their challenge for South America's biggest football prize. The countries involved in this game: Bolivia, the landlocked country in the center of the continent, and Uruguay, the smallest country in South America, but with one of the biggest footballing reputations. It's a new-look Uruguay side. They've come here to Chile without any of their European-based players. Francescoli, Sosa, Fonseca and company have been left behind with an eye to moulding a new, young and home-based squad, working under the management of Luis Cubilla, one of the most successful men in South American football. He's had great success at club level with the Paraguayan side, Olimpia, and this is the young and relatively inexperienced team that he's named for the start of the Copa America campaign here tonight. Bolivia, for their part, well, they have two foreign-based players in their lineup. They also have a change in goal, and that's a bit of a surprise to see number 22 there, Victor Aragon, in goal. The two foreign-based players are number 16, Erwin Sanchez, who plays for Benfica in Portugal, and number 20, Ramiro Castillo, who plays for the Argentine giants River Plate, although he hasn't been a regular in Daniel Passarella's team this last season. Uruguay in their familiar light blue shirts, and joining me here with 60-odd caps of international experience behind him is Martin O'Neill. And just looking at the records there in the Copa America, Bolivia have had just one success over Uruguay, and you can see how well Uruguay have done in the competition overall. 70 wins from their 115 games in the South American Championship. Quite a record for a small country.
Absolutely splendid. Bolivia's championship, I believe, was when they actually held it in their own country as well, Clay.
Indeed, but back in 1963. Well, it will be Uruguay to kick off, and amongst your many experiences with Nottingham Forest on the international stage, Martin, a game against a Uruguayan side in Tokyo National for the World Club Championship. What can we expect from the men in light blue tonight?
Something similar to what we've seen for the last 10 or 15 years, Clive. They'll dig in, they'll get close to you. They can play when they're given an opportunity of being able to play.
Well, they're under immediate pressure there, with Marcos Echeverri making very skillful and purposeful progress to the edge of the Uruguayan penalty area, and that's a feature of Uruguayan football that we've come to expect.
And they'll probably collect a few bookings along the way.
Felipe Reveles, it was, with the tackle, if that's what you can call it, a blatant body check on the edge of the penalty area. But Echeverri, a strapping striker from the Bolivar club, signalling his intentions very early in the game, and within the first minute we have the first chance to see what Bolivia can come up with from a free kick situation. Number 4 with his hands on his hips there is Marciano Saldias, the Oriente central defender. He's forward from the back. Echeverri is there too, with the long hair, with his back to us. The ball driven straight into the wall by Erwin Sanchez. Saldias trying to set up Suarez, but Uruguay, given that early scare, just beginning to regroup. Match 2 in Group B of the 1991 Copa America. Uruguay, the Copa specialists, against Bolivia, one of the real long shots of this year's competition. But such is the part that this game and this tournament plays in the lives of South Americans that everyone sets out thinking it may just be their year. And certainly Bolivia have made a very promising start. And here's Echeverri again. And again, his skill to the fore. Support at the far post from Rimba, but he couldn't get the required knockdown. And Uruguay are able to clear their lines. I suppose really Bolivia have a Northern Ireland sort of chance in this match. They're playing in green and they're playing with the spirit you would expect of your country, Martin.
Well, I hope they don't end up with a couple of results that we ended up with, which were pretty appalling before we actually got a little bit of a side together. But yeah, a very encouraging start for them. Echeverri has attacked down the left-hand side, and I think it's wildly important for them to get off to a good start rather than Uruguay. Uruguay are the past masters of taking the sting out of the game. Bolivia, expectations probably in general in South America quite low here, so it's important that they match Uruguay very, very early on with everything that they can possibly give. Obviously, skill of paramount importance, but very much a bit of steel as well too, because as we mentioned before, Uruguay can dish it out.
Victor Lopez will take this free kick for Uruguay. Goalkeeper coming to claim it, made a good punch under pressure. Out as far as Moran. Castro. Firm challenge, penalised. The Bolivian defender may count himself a little bit unfortunate there. The man in question was Saldias. Moran is number 8, standing over the free kick. Number 7 is Fraquia. He takes it. Asked an awful lot of Moyes coming forward, and really Aragon didn't get a proper shout. I think that's what he's complaining about from the defenders around him, because clearly he could have let that ball drift over the dead ball line and away for a goal kick, and that's an unnecessary corner to concede. 4 minutes played here in Valparaiso. Uruguay in the light blue strip, 0. Bolivia in green, 0. Corner which Fraquia will take. Turned away only as far as Moran. Almost a chance for Victor Lopez. And the shot when it came was under pressure from Moas. And he wasn't able to steer it with a wall of green facing him.
It was just an early test of the Bolivian defence. They've thrown over a corner kick that was actually half-headed out. But I think it's something that Uruguay will try very early on anyway. At least you mentioned that there was a surprise Aragon in goal. Therefore, I think he should be under a little bit of pressure early on.
It's a feature of international football tournaments that very often the eventual winners are amongst the slowest starters. The main contenders will play 7 games in the next fortnight, but losing the very first doesn't leave you with much room for manoeuvre. It's almost traditional that we get a tense start to these major international football confrontations. Certainly plenty of tension on the Bolivian bench. Plenty of excitement amongst the Bolivian commentators here. Even with 3 out of the 4 qualified from some of the World Cup first phase groups last summer, Argentina, eventual finalists, only just scraped through. And Uruguay themselves waited until the very last minute of their last game to score the goal that squeezed them into round 2. It's been a rather wayward start by the Uruguayans, and they've conceded a couple of unnecessary chances, and they were rather fortunate to get away with a weak shot there, straight at Alves, their veteran goalkeeper. Miguel Rimba of the Bolivar club taking the throw for Bolivia. Ramiro Castillo making progress down the touchline. Good close control by Echeverri. And he's won a free kick off Ferrufino, off Castro, I should say. Apologise for the loss of pictures at the moment. We've had just 7 minutes of this Group B game. Uruguay 0, Bolivia 0. Well, as we try to sort out the technical problems for you, here in Chile. We're going to take a short break. Welcome back to Valparaiso. I gather you've got pictures again, and our apologies for that brief interruption to our coverage of this Group B game, the opening game for Bolivia here in green, who've made a very promising opening to the game against the favourites to win this match tonight, and indeed to progress to the final stages, Uruguay in blue. But it's Bolivia who've been asking the early questions. Ball in possession of Melgar, turned on sharply by Suarez, and here's Echeverri, and a chance now for Borja. Hit his own player, came out as far as Castillo. Uruguay being constantly stretched though. Most confident opening by Bolivia. And Alves, a relieved man, to get the ball back in his possession. The 31-year-old Penarol goalkeeper, the most experienced player in the Uruguayan lineup, and they're going to need all his experience. Martin O'Neill.
It's exactly what they do. Now, they've been under a little bit of pressure. What they've done is they've just taken the sting out of the game. They've knocked it around again. They're, as I say, they're past masters of this. They're not never once forgetting themselves too involved early on. Just a few knocks. Now they've advanced over the halfway line with 7 passes. It's unfortunate now that we could have done with Bolivia making a challenge at this particular stage, but as I say, the confidence of Bolivian players must be well and truly up now. They feel that that Uruguay, they've had a look at them for 10 or 15 minutes. They've done most of the press in Bolivia themselves, and they'll feel that they're reasonably comfortably in here.
Fracchia felt he was body checked then. But for all their pedigree in the game, Uruguay do not actually have the international experience that this Bolivian team has. It's strange to say it, but this is a side that's been together for longer. But Uruguay here have an opportunity. Free kick won by Fracchia. Mars was forward, and Mendes was almost in, and he bounced quite kindly for Aragon, the goalkeeper, in the end.
Again, it's pushed in high, and it's a surprising trait at the minute, with the European-based players not being able to participate in the game, or not wanted by Kabia. They've thrown a few high balls in, a la European style. Wee bit strange to see that, because they've been used just in the last couple of years of hitting Francescoli low into the penalty box, where he's able to control and turn as he would want to. And do you think this might be a change of tactic?
It was a rather unfortunate bounce actually for Mendes, the Uruguayan number 9. Pitch is quite firm, a little bit bobbly. Kick-off time, local time, was 5 o'clock. And here we are in the throes of the South American winter. And Uruguay, certainly from the set pieces, adopting a rather more European style. Those high balls into the central defenders coming forward. They're just beginning to settle now. Sanguinetti. Barged off the ball by Erwin Sanchez. Pintos Saldana. Again looking for the high ball down the centre of the field. Draw for Group B has put a lot of onus on Uruguay to start well. Their first 2 games against the 2 least fancied sides, Bolivia and then Ecuador. They could and really should have 4 points tucked away before the group favourites, Brazil, make their entry onto stage on Tuesday, and a goal behind. Bolivia take the lead, and that has been coming. And Uruguay have got plenty to think about now. Suarez, the goal scorer. Extravagant celebrations. And this is more than the travelling Bolivian supporters could have dreamt about. Echeverri again involved in the build-up, but sneaking forward from the back, it was Rimba who set it up, and Juan Betis Suarez who scored.
It's an absolutely superb goal. Great through ball by Rimba. And I thought he may have decided to take it on, but he swept a superb ball across the penalty box. And there was Uruguay left absolutely splay-footed for that one. And it's nice to see it. It's a goal that they thoroughly deserved in the first 15-20 minutes of play. And Uruguay now really up against it.
And they certainly don't look like one of the weak sides of the group on the evidence of the opening 17 minutes. The goal came in the 16th minute. It was scored by Suarez of the beautifully named Blooming Club. And Bolivia are certainly blooming at the moment, although they now have a problem of their own. And it would have been a very big problem had Marcelo Francia made a better contact with that headed chance. And it's a far more open match than we've seen in the tournament so far. And I think it's Bolivia's willingness to go at Uruguay which has made it so.
That was an absolutely great chance there for Francia. Great chance for him to put Uruguay right back in the game. Those kind of chances don't come along too often, Clive. And how often have we seen it before? The side has just scored, having had the majority of the play. They've scored, they've relaxed mentally for that minute or two, and almost paid the price.
But Bolivia lead by a 0-0 here in Valparaiso. And it's their throw-in, which Saldias will take. Castillo. This time Castro able to bring it clear. Sanguinetti. Pintos Saldana. So Lopez Baez a little short then.
The Bolivian coach Blacut was saying that they would surprise Uruguay. He was talking about them not having a great deal of experience, where, as you mentioned earlier, that Bolivia are absolutely steeped in it. And there's no reason to suggest that Bolivia would fear Uruguay, because in the previous World Cup group, in the qualifying group for the last World Cup, they were only knocked out in goal difference eventually by Uruguay, both sides having beaten Peru. So they may feel that they don't have too much to fear. Certainly a very, very heartening start for them.
Throwing them which Rimba will take. Aragon certainly championing the cause of goalkeeper fashions, which seem to change almost by the match these days. Francia trying to force the ball on. Victor Lopez, well dealt with there by Ferrofino. He's a very strong and robust customer. Pintos Saldana leaving the throw. In fact, he's leaving the ball because he's not happy with the air pressure. The referee tonight is a Paraguayan, Carlos Maciel, and Screen Sports exclusive coverage of the Copa America coming to you in association with our sponsors Lucasade. Foul throw by Pintos Saldana. He got a new toy to play with, a new ball, but he needs a new throwing action. Strong play that time by Erwin Sanchez. Here's Ferrofino again. Uruguay and Bolivia are really a league or two apart in status on the world football stage. And yet, as Martin was saying a moment ago, only goals difference separated them at the end of the World Cup qualifiers 2 years ago. Bolivia so nearly made it to Italy. And all that happened recently enough to have maybe put a question mark in the minds of their opponents tonight. It's a familiar story worldwide. The gap between the famous and the not so famous is continually closing. And further evidence of it with the scoreline here after 22 minutes of the first half. Bolivia 1, Uruguay 0. Well dealt with by Rivero. Although it's worth mentioning that the last meeting between these two countries at international level was a little one-sided. It was 2 months ago in the South American Under-17 Championships in Paraguay, when Bolivia lost to Uruguay by 14 goals to 0. I dare say there were some tears in the dressing room. I think maybe there was a misprint on their entry form when they sent their under-7s instead of their under-17s. But at senior level, there's very little to choose. Hector Moran leading the free kick for the defender Felipe Revelev. Again, a good header, this time by Lopez Baez, and that seems to be Uruguay's most promising route of penetration at the moment. Trying to expose Bolivia in the air. There's been very little semblance of a way through for them on the ground. Technically, Bolivia are every bit the equals of Uruguay.
Certainly on the evidence of what we've seen so far, Clive. And I think this is the thing that might upset Uruguay. Because they are basically a young side who have just gathered themselves together over the last 8 or 9 months, then it's difficult to develop a pattern. And what they didn't want to do is obviously concede an early goal to Bolivia. They didn't want to concede an early goal to anyone so that they could get a little bit of confidence themselves. I think young players then their expectations are probably, because it's Uruguay, the expectations of the national side is very, very high. And some of these lads then perhaps have a little bit more pressure on them than they would want to at the early stages of their career. But they've certainly had no semblance of a pattern at all.
Sanchez, tackled that time by Sanguinetti. Moas. Just on a statistical note, that Bolivian goal by Suarez after 16 minutes, which separates the two teams, is the first that Bolivia has scored in the Copa America for nearly 8 years. August 1983 was their last goal in the South American Championships, and it's something that they've taken part in every 2 years in the meantime. They didn't win a match in the tournament during the 80s. So what a success it could be for them tonight if they can hang on or maybe even improve on the goal lead that they hold here in Valparaiso. And they have another opportunity here. Sanchez almost breaking clear. Cisaldias. Given away rather tamely by Sanchez, but Lopez Baez is unable to capitalise. That goal by Suarez, separating the two teams with a little under 20 minutes of the first half remaining. Fraquia. Might just break here for Mendes. And the first really anxious clearance that we've seen by a Bolivian defender. Pinto Saldana. Victor Lopez. Throwing conceded by Castillo. Again, some success in the air. And this time, the reward is a corner kick to Uruguay. Interesting to see how the Bolivians cope with Uruguayan ideas and Uruguayan height at this corner, which Fraquia will take. And there's the answer. Good, positive goalkeeping by Aragon. Echeverri finding Castillo.
You know what I find a wee bit disappointing, Clive, is that we've come to expect so much from South American footballers. The ability to kick a dead ball, free kicks, corner kicks, and to be able to almost place it within a millimetre of where they want to put it. And that's been disappointing. Watched the game last night as well too. Free kicks, there was nothing exceptional at all. Not as if they've worked out for ages and ages on these particular things. And so far, all we've seen Uruguay from corner kicks and free kicks is just knock it in there. There was no real pace in that corner kick. It was knocked into obviously an important area, but no real bend on it, as if it was going to cause a problem if it was going to get off some defender's head. And that's been a disappointing aspect of the games I've seen so far. But I'm going to generalise. I feel that away back from the days of great Pele and Garrincha, free kick seem to become a thing of well, we'll line one up and just let's have a go. Yeah. Do you remember Ida? He was almost taking goal kicks, you know, having a crack at them.
Concern here for the Bolivians because Ramiro Castillo is down. It didn't look to be a tackle with any real devil about it. He's obviously had the back of his ankle clipped. Now, is that Carlos Valderrama or is that a Valderrama lookalike? Former, I think. He's done his job this evening in Valparaiso. Colombia having beaten Ecuador in the earlier game, and now in this second match in a double-header here tonight, Bolivia leading Uruguay by 1-0. And that's great news for the Colombians, because if Uruguay do lose this, then they would automatically become the favourites to qualify from this group with Brazil. But it's a long way off yet, and Bolivia may yet have a say in things. Another promising attack building with their goal scorer Juan Suarez. Little loose from Rimba. Echeverri. Moran on. Lopez Baez a little outnumbered in midfield there for a moment, but he's got away with it. Free kick. A little bit more pace and zest about Bolivia. More so probably than any of the teams that we've seen in the tournament. That familiar laid-back samba rhythm which we in Europe tend to associate with South American football. Not really evident in the Bolivians' play. A bit more cut and thrust about them, isn't there?
I think that's been a very encouraging aspect of their play. They've decided to close Uruguay down very early on. They're not giving them a chance. Obviously, the goal has given them a great lift, but they've been doing it all throughout the first 20-odd minutes of the game, and they've closed down the middle of the field very, very well. And I think it's an aspect of the game that I felt that was going to be strong in Uruguay's play, but it certainly hasn't been to the forefront so far.
Milton Melgar, who's pulling the strings at the heart of the Bolivian midfield. Not with any effect that time. He's got another opportunity here. He's a very studied and cultured player. And he's prepared to toss the ball forward because he's aware there's a little bit of pace in this Bolivian attack. Both Suarez and Castillo have proven that already. Echeverri, the big number 10 who leads the Bolivian line, he seems to prefer to play with his back to goal. He's happy with the ball played into feet, but the other two quite like it knocked in front of them. You think about it, really, it's difficult to remember too many South American players who will be remembered for their pace.
That's true. Very, very true. They were all quite quick. All the great players were quick.
Certainly,
Jorginho was quick. Jorginho. And, I mean, I don't think Pele was a slouch. Maradona was exceptionally quick, but because he was such a terrific footballer, you didn't.
Fracky out! That wasn't far away. I'm not sure that he didn't miscontrol the ball there, and it served to spin the defender for him. His second touch was all right.
The second touch was absolutely marvellous.
I don't think he meant that. He meant that. And that. We've had 31 minutes. And Uruguay just showing signs of steadying and coming back into the game, but still trailing by a goal to nil. You'd have to be a pretty adamant Uruguayan supporter to argue with the validity of the scoreline, because Bolivia are playing really well. But they've got another free kick to defend against here. Frakia, number 7, coming into the game more and more. He had that good headed chance earlier on. He only made his international debut a couple of weeks ago against Chile. Free kick taken too quickly for the liking of the Paraguayan referee. Now, have the Uruguayans got somebody who can hit the ball with pace and curve from here? Well, Castro tried, but he didn't get hold of it at all.
I don't like to say that I was right, but that free kick was absolutely awful. It reminds me of one I would have taken.
Screen Sports coverage of the Copa America comes to you in association with sponsors Adidas. Pinto Saldana. Again, good tackling up by the Bolivians in midfield. Carlos Borja that time. He's 33 years of age. But surprising what a goal can do for aging legs. There's a real appetite about the Bolivians, which the Uruguayans are going to have to match. Here's Peter Mendes. Trying to bring Sanguinetti forward from the back, but it wasn't a pass that the fullback will thank him for.
Bolivia just going through that little phase here at the moment. I think that getting their breath back, good early start for them. They'll be very pleased that in the couple of attacks that Uruguay have had, that they haven't been able to penetrate.
Well, they're almost stepping into uncharted territory now, having scored a goal in the Copa America. For the first time, some of their fans will be able to remember. It's almost a question of what do we do next? Do we go for a second because we're playing so well? Or do we start to think have and hold? I hope they don't go for the latter policy, because I don't think they're really suited to do that. I think they're the sort of team that need to keep hunting and need to try and get a second.
I think you're right as well, too. I think you're right. Don't think they're built that way. Maybe they're so surprised that they have got a goal.
Certainly Uruguay is starting to slide their passes together now with more effect. Useful attack set up by Frakia again. His final ball was a disappointing one, but he was involved a couple of times in that move.
Again, Bolivia, just to retreat it a little bit, they've conceded a wee bit of ground there that from generally closing Uruguay down about the halfway line. They've retreated on block to their own penalty box and decided to defend from there. I think that can be dangerous, Clive, because eventually Uruguay will play a little 1-2 and get past them, and they'll be in for a shot. And I just think maybe the goalkeeper can push them out a wee bit further and say, well, I'll be able to deal with anything around the penalty box. You just push out a wee bit further there, lads, and defend 10 yards further up the pitch.
They're certainly getting forced back now more and more towards the edge of their own penalty area. The half-time whistle is 10 minutes away. And I think if the Bolivian coach could get his hands on it now, he'd blow right now. They just need a little time out at the moment. Uruguay are in the ascendancy, but Sanguinetti's control let him down somewhat embarrassingly. We are, of course, in the depths of the Southern Hemisphere winter, mid-season for most South American footballers. One or two have actually been complaining about the cooler weather down here in the south. But for Bolivia, the major change is in altitude. Their capital, La Paz, is at 12,000 feet, even higher than Mexico City. Strange things happen to footballs and footballers in such rarefied air. Bolivia away is not a fixture that the others look forward to. But this week it's Bolivia who are playing away themselves here in Chile. They're historic rivals. The two countries fought a war over access to the sea a century ago. It's not a home from home for Bolivia in any sense.
On a lighter note, when I hear the word Bolivia, I can't help thinking about the Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid film.
That's where they died, isn't it?
Paul Newman and Robert Redford stepping off a tree and having travelled from miles and miles from Texas and saying, "So this is Bolivia," with hens running around in a hen run.
Well, Uruguay must be wondering if they've done enough homework on Bolivia at the moment. They're being pressed back again. Held up well by Castillo, and a good run for the back. Borja, he squeezed across in. There's a chance here for Castillo. Echeverri was in too, but it was neither quite one thing nor the other. It was neither close enough to Echeverri to get a vital touch, or close enough to the far post to really bother the goalkeeper.
That was an excellent build-up, despite the missed kick from the corner flag. It was a nice little touch on, and I thought just a wee bit harder shot here might have done the trick. He's actually miscued the ball completely.
Lovely touch there.
Absolutely.
By Mendes. By Suarez, I should say, the goal scorer. I'm not sure that Echeverri, closing into the number 10, didn't get a little tug of the shirt from the Uruguayan defender with him. All the world trusts a Uruguayan defender.
You're probably right.
Brakia. Castro. Moran couldn't control it, and Uruguay's controllers let them down once or twice in midfield. Oh, look at this for a break, and onside too. Castillo with Echeverri in support. Now he's got to watch his step. It's Castillo still. Uruguay turned, and it needed the intervention of their experienced goalkeeper Alves to see them through that little crisis. And once more Ramiro Castillo, as he was a moment ago, was at the heart of it.
Eventually it was lovely skill by Castillo, super skill, but that wasn't, I think he might just have been able to shovel it across the penalty box early on. Outside of his right foot perhaps, and possibility of Echeverri maybe just getting the toe poke before any of the Uruguayan players could get back again. Just thought a lovely skill eventually, and he forced the save from the goalkeeper, and I suppose that's not too bad. But it was a reasonable chance, I felt, Clive.
Yes, certainly when the two went clear of the offside line, Uruguay did quite well to regroup and regather their ground and make it difficult for Castillo. But as you say, the turn that he took just gave them an extra second, didn't it?
Just the first time I know that the ball has just veered a wee bit away out of the penalty box for him, but I think it's a matter of getting it under control pretty quickly and making your way into the penalty box.
The Bolivians seem to have found a second win here in the closing 6 minutes of this first half. Game chased by Rimba.
Bolivia have done excellently. I mean, they've obviously started as underdogs, although they probably didn't think that themselves. But their attacking football has been full of ideas, full of invention. And I think that will be, as you mentioned earlier, Clive, their best chance. There's no point in them sitting on a 1-0 because they may not be able to hold out. And I've been in the game a long time. I don't know how you hold out for a 1-0 or a 0-0. I just don't know how. And I think their best chance is maybe trying to get the second goal, because in these type of matches, 2-0 is generally enough.
Headed by Ferrufino. Victor Lopez. Look at all the green shirts, they're swarming around the ball. That really is the style of a British or Scandinavian team, isn't it?
I think that's the nice point. They've got the confidence up. They feel as if they can. I just thought that perhaps maybe they can do that desperate defending a wee bit further out the field. Having said that, when they sign a danger, they're getting men round the ball, and they are closing down.
They've conceded a free kick, and Castro, who mishit the last one, is shaping to try his luck again. This time just thrown in. Well, we said it on half a dozen occasions that the Uruguayan defenders like Big Moas there coming up from the back have caused one or two problems at the set pieces.
the only thing about it is this here, that the free kick, when it's taken, is far enough out of the area for the goalkeeper not to worry too much. As long as there's a proper challenge by the defenders put on then they can always maybe get the second ball. And I think Bolivia cope pretty well with that type of free kick.
And when it's looped in rather than driven in, as you say, there's time for the goalkeeper to make his mind up.
There's time for defenders to actually get the second ball, because even a forward player, he's going to have to do wonders with it to be able to head it down, get a ball 5 or 6 defenders and head it down. When it's driven in, and as the one I was talking about from the corner kick, or as it should be driven in, then there's a danger. Anybody gets the flick on from the near post and it's caused all sorts of problems.
Here's a real chance, and there'll be a penalty appeal there. Referee waves play on. He had a good long look. I think the Uruguayan was Frakia who went down. He's been making some good runs from midfield. It was a shoulder-to-shoulder challenge, but it was a rather clumsy one. Uruguay had to make do with the corner for now. The flick header on there was by a Bolivian, but they've smuggled it clear. Knocked back in by Sanguinetti. Fallen for Erwin Sanchez. Victor Lopez coming into it more. Useful ball. Good firm header too by Reveles. Good save by Aragon. Element of surprise about the shot. I think it was Sanguinetti who was steaming in on the edge of the penalty area. Nicely set up for him by Mendes. Another Uruguayan corner. Last 2 minutes of the first half. 1-0 Bolivia lead. Goalkeeper came and tried to make it his, just knocked it off the head of Mendes. Still looking for it, but under no pressure, able to gather. He's the second choice Bolivian goalkeeper, and he's come through his first big trial pretty well so far tonight. He's 90 seconds away from a breather. Bolivia 90 seconds away from taking that 1-goal advantage into the interval.
Wouldn't want to put the markers on him, Clive, too early, but I think he's done superbly. Is the first team goalkeeper away to the dentist or something? Yeah.
Castro. Taken on by Victor Lopez. Seems to want to take on a man too many sometimes, Victor Lopez. Frakia and Castro far more economic in their use of the ball. They're happy to move it on first touch. Victor Lopez always wants 2 or 3. Pinto Saldani with the throw. Nice turn again by Frakia. He's had maybe the Uruguayan's best chance, and he'll be disappointed that he waited that. But other than that, I think their number 7 has been a major power in their attempts to get back into this game. Reveles. Sanguinetti getting forward again. Here's Castro. Just a little bit too long for Lopez Baez.
It's been a good first half, and I think why it's been a good first half is that Uruguay have had to come out and try and play. They found themselves a goal behind. Bolivia have shown excellent qualities when they've been able to get forward. And as I say, it's left for an intriguing second half, because Uruguay are desperate to get something from the game. A match that probably they would have expected to have won.
Yes, I think we in Europe sometimes complain about the rather cynical nature about South American football. There's been a lovely fresh innocence about all of this game. Inexperienced Uruguayan side. Bolivia inexperienced, full stop on the international stage, and it's made for a good spectacle so far. That's the halfway point, and surprise, surprise, the first real shock of the Copa America is on the cards, because the outsiders, Bolivia, lead the third favourites for the tournament, Uruguay, by 1-0 at half-time. Richly deserved lead, an excellent goal, scored after 16 minutes by Juan Betty Suarez. 1-0 at half-time to Bolivia. The Copa America live and exclusive for you on Screen Sport. Half-time in the second match here in Valparaiso tonight, and the first surprise of the tournament is looming, with the outsiders Bolivia leading Uruguay by 1-0 at half-time, and Uruguay being moved to make a substitution. Victor Lopez has gone off, and on for the second half comes the Nacional striker Edgar Borges. So the Uruguayan coach Luis Cubillo wasting no time in trying to provide some fresh momentum for his team. He's only recently taken over. In fact, his brother Pedro was in caretaker control whilst Luis steered the Paraguayan club side Olimpia to another Libertadores Cup final. Indeed, it was here in Chile that their hopes were dashed by the Santiago favourites Colo-Colo. The Copa provided Bolivia with the greatest moment so far in their footballing history, their one and only major international success back in 1963. They trounced both Brazil and Argentina en route to winning the tournament, but with the key advantage then of playing in the surroundings and at the altitude of their own capital, La Paz. The memories of Victor Agustin Ugarte, the hero of that triumph, still strong in Bolivia, but really, they've been just that, memories. It's been all downhill for them ever since in the Copa. All downhill until tonight. Confirmation of the substitute. There's the newcomer, number 13, Borges. Bolivians coming back onto the field here in Valparaiso on the Pacific coast. The only two games to be played here in Valparaiso, the rest of this group in the seaside resort nearby Vina del Mar. That's where Brazil will come into the action in a couple of days' time. It'll be Bolivia to restart the game. And for the 11 players out there in the green shirts, 45 minutes away from a really historic victory. Two of the Bolivian club sides, Oriente and Bolivar, hinted at an upturn in national fortunes by reaching round two of the Libertadores this year, holding their own against the pick of the Argentines in round one. But prestigious though the big club competition is in South America, it frequently seems to finish out of the grasp of the favourites. The Copa does not. A success for Bolivia back in '63, one of the rare occasions, and one of the long shots has come up trumps. But maybe Bolivia's turn is coming round again. Uruguay is certainly going to have to find an improvement in this second half. Oh dear, and Aragon forced to carry the ball outside of his penalty area. Felt that he was clipped by the Uruguayan striker, but the decision has gone Uruguay's way.
I think he was right as well, too, Clive. I think he had actually come outside the penalty box with the ball before he was actually fouled.
There are going to be some minor theatrics before this free kick can be taken. Everybody wants to have their say. Now here comes the goalkeeper, forced into emergency action. Ball in hands outside the box. The handball before the foul, which was by Lopez Baez. And so Aragon rather anxiously arranging a wall. This could be a key moment in the game. If Uruguay can get back into it in the first couple of minutes of this second half, it will maybe steady them and enable them to play with a little bit more freedom and self-belief. Most of the freedom and self-belief that we've seen so far in the game has come from the Bolivians. Tense moment. Nicely worked. But the hint of surprise, the substitute Borges early into the action, not enough to undo the Bolivian defence, the wall holding firm, and Aragon in trouble. Fool me, but not the wall. And he was all off balance for the second attempt.
It's a nice idea. The shot itself eventually was very, very poor. Don't want to labour the point, but it seems to underline what we were talking about earlier, the dearth of quality in the free kicks.
And ideas, really.
And ideas, absolutely right. It's the sort of idea that would be laughed upon, nay, frowned upon at Peterborough.
Good pace being shown there by Echeverri. Took the ball a little bit close to the goalkeeper, Alves, but he's still got an opportunity. And Reveles did well there to stand his ground and stay on his feet long enough to concede the corner. But Marcos Echeverri, who's got a little bit of the movement of Thomas Scuravi about him, he's a big, strongly built player, but he's got good close control and a little bit of pace there. He's won the corner. Good goalkeeping by Alves. This tournament is traditionally a bit of a magnet for European scouts. The big Italian and Spanish clubs always represented. Checkbooks at the ready. And Marcos Echeverri, the man in the green number 10 shirt, here in possession, is one of the players, I'm sure, who's caught the eye of the visitors from Europe. Suarez has caught the imagination of everybody in Bolivia with that first half goal. His raid down the left-hand side coming to nothing. One back by Melgar. Good defending by Fraquia, who seems to be everywhere. He's a real up and downer, the Uruguay number 7. Castillo. Here's Borges, the sub. Sanguinetti being encouraged to get forward from fullback, something that his opposite number Rimba has done to such effect for Bolivia in the first half. Echeverri felt he was caught from behind there by Castro. Play on, says the referee. Moran. Now Reveles, the captain. Good turn by Pintos Saldana. And he's got some speed too. Ran into a bit of a cul-de-sac and Borja was able to clear. Castillo. Really exciting tempo about this game. Moran. Borges, who's already made an impression. Mendes. Moran. Sanguinetti is forward again to Fraquia's right. Delayed the pass, fatally. Perafino emerging. Suarez, the goal scorer. Never frightened to take a man on. Fraquia.
There's a good deal of belief in themselves up front for Bolivia, and we'd mentioned earlier anyway that this is probably their very best chance. I mean, they defend it well enough too, but feel that could get a second goal here just into the second half that would make things, well, almost out of the way for Uruguay.
Borges, who's seen plenty of the ball since coming on at half-time. That's the way that Bolivia want to see him heading back down the field. Echeverri, and that is the first offside of the game. Neither side playing with a sweeper, both with flat back fours, but that's the first time in the game that we've had an offside. Moas with the free kick for Uruguay. Lopez Baez. On the corner. 7 minutes of the second half gone. Bolivia leading Uruguay by a goal to nil. Frakia will take the corner for Uruguay, who have again brought Moas, the tall central defender, forward from the back, number 3. Didn't reach him. Castro. Frakia. Throwing has gone Bolivia's way.
Bolivia have started the second half the way they started the first half. They've been quick into Uruguay. They've not given them any time to settle again. Feel that this is their best chance. They've got to keep this tempo going for as long as possible. I know that eventually they'll get tired, but they do have the advantage of the 1-goal lead.
Sharp interchange then, but well seen by Saldias. Here comes Echeverri. He's got support from Suarez, but he may not need him. Good tracking by Moran. But this fellow Echeverri is an exciting talent.
Been 2 excellent runs he's had in the second half.
Those Uruguayan defenders are sick of the sight of him already. Corner which Erwin Sanchez takes. A little bit of space for Melgar, which he couldn't make the most of. Sanchez. This is the 4th match in this season's Copa America, and we haven't yet had a second half goal. Something that Uruguay are going to have to change if they're to get the sort of start anticipated of them. Second half is 9 minutes old. Well, the feeling it's a throw in rather than a corner. And I have a feeling Echeverri knew. Saldias will take it. That will be a corner, won by Castillo. Erwin Sanchez, who is in the Benfica side, which won the Portuguese Championship last season. Nicknamed Platini. Great tribute to his creative talents in midfield. This corner has caused some alarms here for Uruguay. Almost a chance, with Castillo throwing himself bravely at the ball. This wouldn't bounce for him.
That's the type of corner I was talking about, Clive. It was driven in there. There's plenty of pace on it, whooped in almost. And it was going to cause a problem anyway, even though it was the Uruguayan defender who got the first touch in the ball. The best he can do is actually head the ball up to back up in again, into the air. And if somebody's coming in behind, if he just gets the slightest touch, anybody coming in behind, it's a goal for nothing.
Here they come again with Castillo. Blocked by Reveles, and that will be another corner kick to Bolivia, who are starting this second half in much the same frame of mind in which they started the first. And that bright opening that they made to the first period, rewarded by the 16th minute goal by Juan Suarez, which still separates the two teams. Looks optimistic in the extreme. The Bolivians maybe feel their luck's in tonight. Not much to cheer the Uruguayan bench. Screen Sports coverage of the Copa America coming to you in association with sponsors Lucasade. finding Castillo. Throwing to Uruguay. Moran was tumbled, and the referee deciding against applying an advantage rule there. Reveles. This is Borges, the substitute. Makes space for himself well. Couldn't shake off Carlos Borja. Fracchia. Nice move. Well, there was a chance there for Sanguinetti, the fullback, arriving late on the scene. The cross, I think, was meant for Peter Mendes. But again, it was the number 7 Fracchia who inspired the chance.
But he's done very, very well to volley it in the first place, because the Bolivian defender was right up against him. But had he been able to keep the ball on target, it would have absolutely sailed into the net. I was just about to say, I'm glad I didn't, Clive, to you, that for the most part, Bolivia have defended very, very well. They've kept Uruguay at arm's length. And the second half tempo, I was just beginning to think that Uruguay thought, well, what can they do to break the Bolivian defence down?
Castro's shot took a deflection. I think it'll be a corner. Fracchia trotting out to take it. Again, Reveles and Moas are forward from the back. Number 3 Moas, number 2 Reveles with the red captain's armband. It's towards him, and he's got his touch on, and a smart save by Aragon. I don't know how much he really knew about it. Just the faintest of touches from Peter Mendes.
It's called being in the right place at the right time. Didn't know very much at all about it, but he stood up well to it, and whatever was going to beat him had to be into the corners. Again, it's just a wee dicky time here at the minute for Bolivia. They've handled most of what Uruguay have thrown at them. They haven't been able to get comfortable possession themselves here for the last 5 minutes, and Uruguay have had their best spell of the game.
It really is a fascinating game. It's not just the anticipation of a shock on the cards, which could be in itself a spark for the rest of the tournament.
Football's been excellent.
It's the quality and the brightness of the football, isn't it?
And Uruguay, for all their pressing now, know that any mistake at the back there with the Bolivian forwards having that little bit of pace that could cause them problems, they'll be right out of this game.
Really is a unique footballing nation, Uruguay, the smallest in South America, but with one of the biggest reputations. 2 World Cup wins, 13 in this tournament. Sadly, their reputation is also for the violent and the unsavoury, but we've seen very little of that in this game. It's been played in an excellent spirit and with an excellent tempo too. They made a rather limp showing in the World Cup finals. It was the subject of an official inquiry. And poor morale, indiscipline and internal squabbling were blamed. Not that anything of that is particularly new in Uruguay. But it was maybe what prompted the coach to leave out his European-based players for the moment, feeling that some of them had more say in team selection than the team selector, the coach. Well, not now, they haven't. But the men that Uruguay have put faith in here, this relatively untried side, still got to come up with something. Maybe here with Mendes. Bolivia are now defending at the stretch. No way though for Pintos Saldana to go.
I think the introduction of Borges has given them a great lease of life here. He's been nice and tidy, likes to take players on, very, very strong, can hold the ball up well, and looks quite a handful.
Plays for Nacional, one of the most famous teams in South American football. A team indeed which you played against for Nottingham Forest in the World Club Championship more than a decade ago. And they're in again here. And that was brave goalkeeping by Aragon, getting in at the feet of Lopez Baez. And he's certainly showing signs of being in considerable pain there. I think Lopez Baez had to go for it.
He definitely had to go for that one. Is it what?
In fact, it wasn't him that caught him, it was the other attacking player coming in. But even he had a stab at the ball.
Yeah, I'm not terribly sure that he's paralysed anyway. I think it's one of those types of incidents that when you're doing well, Clive, Peter Shilton has a habit of it. You're doing very, very well in the game. Things are going splendidly for you, and you've tipped a few over the bar, and then suddenly somebody comes in and taps you in the ankle. And it's not only is it your ankle injury, it's now your knee, and it's up your hip. So just a nice wee excuse for you next time round. I hope Peter's not listening to this. Yeah? But Aragon's had a splendid game so far, and I think he'll feel that, well, I can stay down here for a minute or two. I'll get a wee bit of sympathy from the lads. They'll come over and pat me in the back again and say, "You're doing brilliantly, lad. Just keep it going." And if there's a stretcher being called on for him here, it'll be the last game I'll be doing.
Yeah, there's always a question mark in the back of your mind, I guess, with the Latin temperament. He's got a chance to put a new film in. Actually, if Aragon is being very clever here, a little break is just what Bolivia need, because Uruguay were just starting to impose themselves again.
Very much so.
We're 18 minutes into the second half now. That one goal lead that Bolivia hold is deserved, but it is the most slender of leads. And I think the left thigh was the last part of his anatomy, which Aragon rubbed.
In fact, if I could have lip-read Ferrofino there in Spanish, I think he was saying, "Stay down, Aragon, for another minute or two. Give us all some time."
Screen Sports coverage of the Copa America coming to you in association with sponsors Adidas. And potentially the biggest story yet in the 1991 tournament, with Bolivia in green leading Uruguay by 1-0, and a little over 25 minutes now remaining here in Valparaiso. Firm header by Ferrofino, only as far as Castro. Borges with a little touch. Fracchia with space here on the right-hand side. Sanguinetti overlapping. Uruguayan down there in the centre of the field. Victim, I think, of a rash rather than cynical challenge. He's got a mouthful. Ay, ay, ay. It was Castro who forced the ball forward. Borges who got the little touch on. Castro who tried to force the mistake. Oh, and I think there might just have been a little forearm there pushed into his face. You shall go no further. Aragon chewing away quite confidently now. Got the swagger of a goalkeeper in form. Estadio just calming things down again with a pass back to his goalkeeper. Bolivia lead. Approaching the halfway point in this second half. Fracchia for Uruguay. Away by Ferrofino. Knocked down by Reveles. Again, Pintos Saldani with absolutely no time to bring the ball under control and assess the options, because immediately there was a Bolivian player putting him under pressure. Castillo. Hampered illegally.
Around about the same period in the first half, Bolivia went through this little phase that lost possession, lost I wouldn't call it heart so much, but certainly lost a wee bit of belief in themselves. And while they're flooding midfield, then nobody's actually doing anything in there. Like, no one's actually getting a foot in anymore, where they were able to do it before. They're getting plenty of men behind the ball, but no one's actually coming out and delivering the proper challenge. Might just have spoken a wee bit too soon there as Ferrafina dives in once again.
Well, he's the big centre-half,
yes.
And that's his stock and trade. And he's caught out of position here with Borges going forward. Support from Lopez Baez. But it's Uruguay's turn to hustle Bolivia out of their stride. Really is almost impossible to overstate what a surprise result this will be if it remains the same. I liken Bolivia's chances to maybe that of a Northern Ireland in the early stages. It's that kind of status on the South American scene, maybe the equivalent of Switzerland, say, in European football. The odd success way back in their history, but really they've been cannon fodder for the big guns of South American football in more recent years. I think there's maybe a little bit more money in Switzerland than there is in Bolivia. Although there's an equal amount of my money in both countries.
I saw the slips in your back pocket.
Well, they'll be on a big bonus, the Bolivians, if they can keep things going. They've got substitutes warming up. Our coach must be wondering what to do next. No shortage of commitment. Saldia's going in very bravely then. And Uruguayans are going to have to make another substitution. Luis Cubilla can't afford to wait any longer. The coach has got to make a move. Here comes Suarez. Echeverri, from whom we've seen relatively little in the last 10 minutes or so. He's had an excellent game. Service just dried up a little bit to the Bolivian front men. Coming back as they can clear it. They've just got to try and get a foothold, establish base camp again in the game and build from there.
They've just given it away a wee bit too a bit too often there for their own liking.
But Echeverri can always turn things. Oh, it was an interesting cross and it might still come off. Well, Suarez couldn't believe that there was another chance coming his way. Castillo trying to resurrect the move. Firm drive from Rimba.
I thought it was a terrific ball by Echeverri. There was nothing else on for him. He didn't decide that he thought, well, there's no point in running any further here. He's delivered a little tantalising little ball here. The goalkeeper doesn't know whether to come for or not. I thought Suarez, if he had stayed on his feet, would probably have stuck it in.
It was much a teaser for his teammate as it was for the goalkeeper who was chasing it across the face of his goal. I think if Suarez had stuck a second goal in there for Bolivia, he could have retired for the evening. On the throne with dancing girls, I think. That was the eventual shot from Rimba, who set up the goal for Suarez. But the number 9 was unable to take that second chance which came his way. And here's Fraquia, tireless in the Uruguayan cause, a great cross. Defeated a goalkeeper, but just an inch too far for the supporting striker. What a good cross this is by
That's an
Fraquia.
absolutely brilliant ball. That should have been a goal. Honestly can't believe that they didn't score a goal. I think it was Mendes has missed
Mendes is the first player
Mendes
who
has missed the first challenge. But Fraquia, who's just drifted out of the game for 10 or 15 minutes himself, has come back in. But it's a magnificent ball across the goal. Should have been an
Gutierrez
equaliser.
is the substitute. And it's Lopez Baez who's gone off for number 10. Alvaro Gutierrez is a midfield player, plays for the Bella Vista club.
That should have been the equaliser.
And the new boy has got just 18 minutes to make an impact and square the game. The end of Lopez Baez's night. Offside. And Uruguay did actually push up then, but it's not a tactic that we've seen in the game.
It's actually come from a nothing situation. It was a sort of there were 3 green shirts around the 1 blue man, and he was able to break clear for it.
Really, a defender was as likely to score as an attacker there. He needed a touch from anybody. That's a horrible situation for a defender when you're facing your goal and the ball's whipped in like that. Here's Borja, I think, as the one who just got that final touch on the far post, but up the stretch couldn't turn it goalwards.
But if you work on the assumption, Clive, that there will not be too many of those opportunities in the next 18 minutes, then Uruguay could rue that missed chance.
Here's the other substitute, Gutierrez. His first touch. Nature's played by Sanguinetti. Got his decision. His little worker, the Racing Club fullback. 2 right backs have both had excellent games. Miguel Rimba for Bolivia. Flicked on by Gutierrez. Forced on by Castro. Still a chance for Castro, it's there! Uruguay have equalised. And that's what it means to them. 17 minutes remaining. And Ramon Castro, with the help, I think, of a slight deflection, has scored the goal which will save Uruguayan blushes and really sets us up for a fabulous climax.
Yes. Bolivia got into a bit of a mess. They couldn't get it clear at all. Castro's just come through a few bodies. You're absolutely right. It has got a deflection. Goalkeeper's been a wee bit onside.
It's a big one.
Yeah. And you would say that it was on the cards for the last 10 minutes. I think Bolivia have just gone to sleep. They haven't been able to get a grip in the middle of the field at all, and Uruguay have deserved the equaliser.
Fraquia now. Another chance, this time for Mendes. The substitute Gutierrez in there. Corner kick given. And Bolivia now rocking. And Uruguay must sense that, having taken so much punishment in this game, it's they who've got their man on the ropes. And that this may be the time to apply the knockout punch. Goalkeeper came a long way and was impeded, and he's got his free kick. And that's welcome news for Bolivia. Mendes, who drove it across the face of the goal, and Alvaro Gutierrez, under some good pressure from the Bolivian defender, just unable to turn it goalwards.
I feel a bit sorry for Bolivia. You know, they played very, very well for long periods in the game. Uruguay have up gear, as they had to, really, to get themselves back into the game. What's been a wee bit disappointing as far as Bolivia are concerned is the fact that they haven't been able to get a grip at all, Clive, in the middle of the field. They've been giving the ball away far, far too often.
Here's Borja. His shot deflected, this time for a corner.
And that man Borja has caused them all sorts of problems. Just his introduction itself has given Uruguay a lift.
Game has an altogether different complexion now. Fourteen more minutes. Bolivia in green, 1. Uruguay in blue, 1. This is Peter Mendes. Full credit to Uruguay, Martin. You'll have been in the situation yourself where maybe a first division team playing against a lesser side in a cup tie, you know how humiliating it can be. You're a goal down. You've got to somehow keep your composure and keep your patience, and Uruguay have done that.
That's right. And not only that there, they've had the disappointment of seeing a shot go across the goals as well. That was a great, great chance for them. They think, well, 15, 20 minutes to go. Are we ever going to get another decent chance? And suddenly they've been able to create one again. So full marks to them.
And full marks to Alves there for coming a long, long way to deny Echeverri. Not that unusual to see a South American goalkeeper on a walkabout. It was a well-timed walkabout.
If Bolivia could just get themselves recomposed again and pull themselves into a sort of a shape, space, just 3 or 4 passes.
Echeverri.
I think they can get back in themselves.
Saldias. Echeverri again trying to get in behind them. And he just lost the goals then. And it's the Bolivians' turn to contemplate a substitution, maybe a double substitution. 15 Saruco is a midfield player. He plays for the Blooming Club. South American football very different in nature to British football, but it was the British who brought the game to this continent, and the evidence remains in the names of some of the club sides. There's a Liverpool in the Uruguayan First Division, and the Bolivian equivalent contains teams like The Strongest and Destroyers, a side called Always Ready. And it's a British sort of finale that we've got on the cards now. Real full-blooded stuff. It could still go either way. It's 1-1. The tireless Frakia looking for Gutierrez to substitute. Little nudge in the back there by Sanchez.
Uruguay just getting a wee bit more room, Clive, you know, being able to find their men.
Sanguinetti committing his man there, and Sanchez, the midfield player, tracking it back, looked a little bit weary then. It was a tired tackle.
I think Bolivia will have in their minds now, if we can't win the game, let's not lose it.
Well, if you'd offered them a draw at kick-off time, they would certainly have taken it.
What has said so?
Francia couldn't quite get it to move enough in the air. A rather lazy swing at the ball, trying to curl it round the wall.
Los aviones periodistas que cubren este evento se les informa que frente a la puerta de acceso principal se ubicará un bus para dirigirse al centro de defensa ubicado en el Estadio de Sausalito.
Echeverri. His control has been a constant highlight of this match, and a match of many highlights too. I think 1-1's about right at the moment. Bolivia had the early rounds. Uruguay have come back strongly. Now has somebody got a big punch left just to decide the outcome? Melgar. Echeverri. Saldias. Melgar hasn't really got a hold of things in the middle of the field. He's got the talent to do so, but sometimes lacks the commitment. No shortage of commitment from Sanchez that time. Here's Castillo. Borja. Well, that's a fine ball. Saldias getting forward. And that's not a bad cross either. And that could have gone anywhere off the defender's foot. 4 marks to Mas for getting to it, but he could have embarrassed himself. 21 is Baldaviso, the Jorge Wilstermann midfield player. 15 is Modesto Saruco of the Blooming Club, also a midfield player. But they'll have to wait for a moment because Erwin Sanchez driving in a shot from the corner. Castro winning the ball back. And Moas, who steered that ball away from the corner, steers it rather more confidently and with rather more composure back to his goalkeeper this time. Suarez trying to stretch his legs once more. Sanguinetti's a strong little customer. Referee rather enjoying that tussle. given the free kick to Uruguay.
Like most referees, I thought he was going to give the initial foul, and when he's decided to stay on, I thought he's made a bad decision second time round. But this is a magnificent ball in by Salidas. Again, it was just a fraction. It was a fraction again.
On come Owen Sanchez and Juan Suarez, the goal scorer. And the two substitutes once again. 21 is Baldaviso and 15 is Soruco.
I think Bolivian intentions are made pretty clear here. They've decided that if they are going to get anything, they'll just leave maybe Echeverri up front himself and try and close the middle of the field down, where I think they've been losing a grip of the field. Now,
here's Melgar.
You hate to blame any one individual, but Melgar, captain of the side, could have done a wee bit more in that. I think he should have seen the danger coming. He'd been coming for 10 or 15 minutes before that, Clive, and it's a matter of just pulling a couple of bodies back in again and saying, okay, listen, we'll not worry too much about what's happening up there, just let's get our foot in here in the middle of the field.
Yeah, he's the organiser, and they've just lacked a little bit of organisation at the critical time.
Yeah.
Gutierrez forcing the ball on. Now is this the moment for Uruguay? Moran can't reach the return ball.
It's strange that, because they were left on a 2-on-2 situation there, not for the first time this second half, where they look as if they've got their bodies behind, but nobody's actually picking up any particular player, and that causes a problem if something breaks loose to someone.
I remember well a crucial game in the first phase of the World Cup finals last summer in Udine, when Uruguay were staring an early exit from the competition squarely in the face, drawing 0-0 with South Korea that evening, and with the very last minute, Daniel Fonseca headed the goal, which not only took them through to the second phase, but actually knocked Scotland out. Now, they got such a sting left in their tail tonight. Little under 6 minutes remaining. They won't want to leave it quite as late as they did in Udine. Our friend Aragon is starting to limp. He's conceded a goal now. Actually, he's taken a bit of a buffeting, in fairness to him.
He has, actually, and he may have received a dead leg at that particular time, which is a nasty old injury.
Particularly in the morning. It's when you really feel it. Of course, such is the schedule that Bolivia are back in action in just 2 days' time. A small matter of a date with the Brazilians in Vina del Mar.
Be interested to see if he's recovered it from the morning after the night before.
Now, chance for break on here for Uruguay, and here's Borges taking on Ferrofino. A little bit of a mismatch in size. Oh. I don't think Senor Borges would be well advised to take on Senor Ferrofino in that kind of tussle. Maybe for pace, but not for strength. Foul throw. That's a real waste, isn't it?
Yeah. And Bolivia lucky to get away with that one. I think they're playing this game rather naively, Clyde. You find Rivero making a charge out of defence there when he's only 2 players behind him, but 97 players in front of him, and he's decided, I'll have a go here. We're 4 minutes to go, and you think Bolivia would be delighted with a 1-1 draw.
I think Uruguay would be relieved to draw the game, having been behind for so long, but really victory was expected of them, and victory is still within their grasp. They are certainly the more likely side to score in these last 3.5 minutes. If either side does, there'll be no time for a reply, that's for sure. Bolivia don't look to be in a hurry. Aragon can't be in a hurry.
If it stays 1 each, I think both sides will be pretty pleased with the night's work. I think Bolivia for the very reason that they would have settled for 1-1 before the game, and Uruguay because they've been behind for so long in the match. Also the fact that none of the two teams have been beaten. I think that's important again. I can't emphasise that enough. I think all sides will still feel that going into the second game and perhaps the third match that they still have a chance of qualifying. They haven't lost. They haven't lost that much ground, and they're still in there with a chance.
Boys linking well with Fraquia. Now Gutierrez. Free kick goes to Uruguay. 2.5 minutes remaining. Coming down to the wire in Valparaiso. Bolivia trying to steal every inch that they can. And the inches they stole were crucial in the end. The wall was nothing like 10 metres, although the little tee-up wasn't particularly considered. Neither was that. Castro gets a second chance. Sanguinetti was being held then, but still made the ball his. Bold run by Moran, and he's won a corner kick. Echeverri it was who got back into the defensive position to concede the corner. Uruguay would just love the game to go on for another quarter of an hour or so now. We're into the last 2 minutes though. Bolivia are holding out. Sanguinetti finding Castro, offside flag. More through accident than design, I think, as far as the Bolivian defence were concerned.
It's one of those situations where they didn't know whether to run out or run across.
I think any running is a bit of an effort for most of them now. They've really put a lot into this. And mentally, emotionally, it must have been a draining night for them. They've been so close to one of the great victories in their nation's footballing history. It's still going to be a very commendable result if they can hold out, but they were touching the stuff that legends are made of, really, 15 minutes ago before Uruguay managed to equalise. Now, can they still come back and find something more with Castillo? Not with that kind of tackle from Reveles. Salvias will take the throw. Stoppage time now. At the end of what's been a really absorbing night in Valparaiso. 2 helpings of football for the local fans. A rather tragic mistake by the young Ecuador goalkeeper, allowing Colombia to win the first match. And then for a long time here in the same group, Bolivia entertaining hopes of a shot, but Uruguay finding the defiance and the spirit to keep at it, equalise, and at times come close to winning the game in these closing stages. He's been the engine of the side tonight, Marcelo Fraquia. One last chance, maybe. Castro's header. Maybe that chance will fall to Bolivia. Echeverri on his way, but Reveles calming things down. Minute of stoppage time played. Free kick to Bolivia. Gutierrez backing into his man, Valdeviso. Well, what a marvellous match it's been. And a fair result at the end of the night. Bolivia were hanging on in the closing stages, but they've given so much to this game, notably the goal after 16 minutes by Juan Suarez, which for a long time looked as if it might be enough to see off Uruguay's brave efforts to get back into the game. But that they managed with a deflected goal by Ramon Castro. And at the end of the first night in Group B, it's Colombia who have 2 points, and Uruguay and Bolivia who share 2 here. 1-1 the score.
Welcome back to the Playa Ancha Stadium here in Valparaiso. The full-time score from our second match tonight in Group B. Uruguay coming from behind to draw with Bolivia. 1-1 the final score.